Okay, welcome back to another episode of Make Money Count. Before we get started, I want to remind you not to subscribe and not to like our video because for some reason, if you don't want to, then you shouldn't do it. But thanks for joining us. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I don't only have probably one of the greatest real estate minds in the universe on the show today. I also have one of my best buddies, a guy who I have known for a really long time. He just happens to have taken the Toronto real estate market by storm. And he's been on the show before. And he always has just a wonderful, optimistic, sunny outlook on all things, not just real estate related. And you would almost call him a philosopher. Anyways, without any further ado, I introduce you to the lovely Benjamin Ferguson.
Oh, you were talking about me when you said one of the greatest real estate minds?
Yeah.
I thought we were going to introduce someone later.
Matt Castleman.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. It's good
Great.
to see you. The commercials are fun to see you on the Super Bowl commercials, but in person, much more fun.
Make money count.
Make money count.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what we want to get across for the first stretch of this. And then we're going to shoot the shit a little bit. The goal here is to get a bit of the temperature in the real estate market. Now, I know you and your partner, Matt, do a ton of transactions. I know you're centered in the East, but you do stuff all across the city.
Yeah, we're all over the place for sure. But yeah.
You didn't make it onto the Amazon TV show, Big City Broker.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I tried, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not try. That's not.
So we're not going to fault you for it. We did try to get whoever they are on the show.
And they weren't available.
Well, they declined. They declined.
As long as I was in the second position, I'm happy to be here.
What if you were in the 9th?
That would be fine too.
Again, always optimistic. Okay, so we have seen the last couple of years of literally just carnage in the real estate market.
We have.
Like it got kind of progressively worse.
Especially on the condo side.
Especially on the condo side.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the condo market specifically. I want to talk about the broader market. I want to start off by we did a great podcast last week. Over 10,000 people watched it in the last 6 days. If we can achieve even half of that with you on here, it would be a success.
I hope so.
To dive into it, what we've seen since the last podcast and things, it's weird. I never thought like being a mortgage broker or mortgage lender would ever require me to utilize my economics degree, right? I never really assumed that. But the idea that it's kind of like it allows me to use my economics background and also my acting background from grade 12 drama. Really brings into focus, two of my favorite things. So I never would have anticipated that things would change so quickly. And even in the last week since Trump's been elected, we've seen bond yields elevated. We've seen this reflation trade come back into focus, meaning people now trading in the belief that asset prices are going to start increasing again. And that's by virtue of interest rates falling. It's by virtue of the United States economy growing. What impact is that going to have on Canada, more specifically Toronto, Ontario? Have you seen any renewed optimism in the Toronto real estate market?
I think absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that rate now, and this isn't just a salesman talking, I think it's pretty easy to make the argument that prices are going to go up from here. I think that it's about as cheap as it's going to get. And as interest rates come down further, we're going to see prices go up. So if someone has the means to buy, if they can pull it off financially, now is the time to buy. Now is the opportunity.
Even a condo?
Absolutely. I mean, you're going to see as rates go down, you're going to see the supply eaten up. Obviously, it's kind of a case by case scenario. There's high density areas with lots of units for sale. That's why you need to talk to an expert that understands the dynamics of each neighborhood. I would say, but generally speaking, we can just speak from a general perspective. It's a great time to buy. You're going to get the cheapest price you may get in our lifetimes right now. That's how I see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boom.
And I'm only 20 years old. So
Okay,
that says a lot, right?
Honestly, you are sounding like
A salesman.
no, but I want to preface everything you're saying with, I've known you for like 20 years.
And
Do you realize that?
Yes.
Right. And I if it doesn't immediately come across, Ben's not a sales guy. You're not a sales guy.
I would say that I'm usually kind of conservative in my approach, but when you look at all the facts, how expensive it is to build today, what inflation has done to construction costs, especially in big urban centers like Toronto and Vancouver, very expensive to build, among the most expensive cities in North America, if not. Very expensive to build, rates on their way down, not enough new construction in the pipeline to satisfy the amount of immigration. You pull back the layers, everything is saying prices are be moving north.
Okay, can I play devil's advocate a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, you mentioned a few things. Okay, so number one, you said
construction costs.
So do you believe that construction costs may correct lower as a result of the decreased demand to accommodate
to some
that?
degree?
Okay.
To some degree, but we still have we still have the most expensive city to build in North America in terms of subs. As materials are coming down maybe a bit, but not to where they were before.
It's the most expensive city to build in North America?
Well, Canada in general is twice as expensive as the United States to build. And
Get out of here.
Yes.
Why?
I think we pay more for everything, so it's not surprising.
So like in New York, if you wanted to build a condo in New York City.
I mean, obviously we're talking like average per square foot price construction. I mean, I'm sure when Jerry Seinfeld does his loft next to Central Park, there's some money being spent. But just like average per square foot pricing, the United States is far, far cheaper.
Have you been to Jerry Seinfeld's loft?
I was over there. Yeah.
Okay. And then you say immigration. And like immigration is actually a big thing, right?
It's a talking point now. And certainly we'll likely have a conservative government coming into Canada next year and maybe a little bit less immigration. But at the end of the day, economists like yourself running the numbers are showing to sustain healthcare, to sustain our social services and everything else, you need a certain amount of immigration. We're an aging demographic. We need young people coming. I mean, that's
the idea though is that the population will contract over the next 2 years.
It already is. And
no. Like they want to limit immigration to the point where the Canadian population will contract. So does that affect the demand side considerably, especially for the condos?
But there's political rhetoric, and then there's actually when economists run the numbers and they're trying to sustain our CPP and our pensions and our healthcare system, the numbers, that's where the numbers are dictated by, not just, I hope so. There's some pragmatism to it. It's not just like slow down on immigration for no reason, right?
I mean, I don't know if it's no reason. I think what we've started to see from G7 governments is this. If the stronger the mandate that they've been provided by the people, the more they'll behave in that direction. And we had this kind of rudderless existence over the last decade.
So that's a lack of pragmatism then.
For sure.
If you're listening to
just what's the mood? What's the mood? Oh, temperature is let's let more immigrants in and let's have 7 bathrooms, one for men, one for women, one for horses, one for people that identify as cell phones.
I'm talking about about the policy from an intelligent perspective, and not. God love Joe Rogan, but I don't want him to send us in. I don't want him to decide our policy at the end of the day, right? So I think we can assume, to get back to where we were, is that we have a population that will continue to grow at some point because it will be necessary to sustain everything, right? And people will need homes. And, if we have 100,000 people coming a year to the Toronto area and we've dried up new construction housing starts because of our recent inflation and high interest rates, then at some point we are going to have a boom. The prices are going to go through the roof because we just don't have enough homes. And that's how I see it. And I think that's from a pretty informed perspective. I don't think I'm just throwing out. I'm not an economist. I did drop out of university, Marcus. You kept going. I was more of an entrepreneurial type.
I know, but you had like a killer nightclub at the time.
Sure.
So, I mean,
but I mean, Toronto is the talk of the planet. Canada is the talk of the planet. People want to be here. They're not going to wake up tomorrow and not want to come here. They're going to keep coming if we let them, and they're going to need homes.
How many condos are for sale right now?
I don't know the answer to that question, but it's still heavy. The supply is heavy. In C1, it's heavy.
Like, what is it? 9 months of inventory?
I think it's 6 or 7, but I hate just,
Somewhere in between.
throwing stuff off the.
I don't mind throwing stuff right off. I don't mind it.
Like we could go back to the Trump reference earlier, but yeah, I I don't want to throw stuff up. There's a lot of supply to eat up. Don't get me wrong, there absolutely is, but we've turned a corner, and we've seen from the trenches. We see things selling quicker, and I think the prices are at the bottom.
Where is the bottom? Like, what is the average price per square foot?
I don't know the average price specifically right now, like citywide. But I'm seeing like premium product around $1,000 a foot right now. Not luxury, just like good solid buildings in the $1,000 a foot. But you can get great value in the $400, $500, $600 a foot if you're kind of off the beaten path and you're fine with an older building.
You can't build for that.
I don't think you can build for $1,000 a foot and sell for profit either. So that's why people aren't launching projects, and that's why we're going to have a serious lack of supply in the coming years.
So you're thinking on this, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just like, I want to just illustrate it. Your thinking is, listen, it costs, when it comes to kind of getting your land entitled and paying your interest costs and then putting your building up and then selling your building, it's hard to make numbers work for less than $1,000 a foot.
Yeah, unless there's a serious decrease in the land prices,
which there has been.
I mean, I've seen maybe perhaps that's happened.
Like a buildable square foot in the city of Toronto in a good location used to get $250.
Yeah,
and now you're lucky to get $100.
Yeah, so there you go. There's one of the variables that makes it helpful.
The cities and the federal government and the provincial government are all trying to pull this coordinated effort to reduce the time it takes to get a project approved. Do you think that'll happen?
And levies, and try and pull the levies down a bit too, right?
You think that DCs can come down?
No, I know that there's pressure there.
Right.
You're talking about.
So like they're already supplementing it for specific rental projects, and
like we built two houses last year, and architects said the levies are $100,000. But okay, that's pretty heavy, but fine. But he'd forgotten about the park levy, so that was another 40 or 50. So just to sever a double lot and add one home in the city of Toronto, if it's detached, is a total of $150,000 right now, which is too much money.
Wow.
Yeah. I know the semis is much less, the apartments are much less, but
it's still $50,000-$60,000.
Yeah.
But you're allowed 4 in your house, right? So you don't pay for the first 4.
That's for apartments. Yeah. We severed. So they're two detached homes on separate parcels. But yeah, I mean, I think that, we probably pay a little less property tax than we should in Toronto. Maybe.
Oh, what's the address? Just so that the city can get that down?
Yeah, I always write letters to the city saying I'm not paying enough on my real estate, by the way.
Do you really? Yeah.
That's how good of a guy I am, Marcus. No, let's be honest. I mean, there's a lot of people in $2 million houses with an evaluation of $1 million or something in Toronto. And I'm not saying I want to pay more taxes. I'm just saying if the money is needed, there is still movement in the property tax side of things. And you don't need to, put the screws to the developers. We need housing. We need,
You're projecting that right now at about $1,000 a foot, it's very difficult for we're not talking like the Nobu Hotel condo,
of course,
right? We're talking like, a nice building like the Concord buildings at like near our Navy Wharf office
And I'll tell you something. I sit here, 1,600 transactions in or whatever I'm in with pre-con in there. I've never sold someone something that wasn't a good investment ever. I talked people out of buying expensive luxury condos because it just didn't make sense with the neighboring comparables. And I just look at it and say, no, don't do this. Sometimes I've had people actually leave and go and buy it with somebody else because they wanted to buy in that tower so badly. And I told them it wasn't a good move. So I think I can, from kind of a more conservative approach to buying condominiums as investments or even pre-con, I think I can speak honestly about that, right? But yeah, $1,000 a foot would kind of take our average there for a good product. I'm not talking Yorkville or Nobu or wherever you're wherever you were going there. But I think in the $1,000 a foot range, you get a good building, you get parking, you get a locker.
Which is a great deal right now.
Yeah, and those buildings were probably trading at 11 a foot, 12 a foot at times. So somebody that bought a few years ago at the peak, it'll be tough if they have to sell now. They shouldn't. They should stick there. But the people coming in, the new people coming in, or if you're moving up, it's a slam dunk to make a move now. And as interest rates come down, your carrying costs will get less. And I'm assuming, would you be doing variable with people now that are entering the market? What would you recommend? Wait, I'm interviewing you now.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. So I would for sure it's a variable rate right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, you got me thinking, because the sooner you get a variable rate, the better. Because variable rates also behave kind of like fixed rates do, but they have different mechanisms that trigger them. So a fixed rate is totally priced off of the bond yield. Government of Canada bond yield, which is hovering right around 3% right now. Fixed rates for 5 years. So if the 5-year Government of Canada bond yield's 3%, the 5-year fixed rate should be 4.5%. Variable rates are always pegged at the prime rate, right? So prime rate of 5.95 right now.
Right.
Variable rate is going to be pegged to that. Right now, we can get 120 below that rate. So you're looking at a 4.75% variable rate. But as rates drop, as the prime rate drops, the banks start tightening the discount off of the prime rate. So variable rates, we're starting to see it already. You're not going to get 120 below prime anymore. Soon you're going to get 90 below prime. And then you're going to get 70 below prime. And then you're going to get 60 below prime. The banks will cite loan loss provisions in the reason why they're instituting this mechanism. They'll say that interbank lending is becoming more expensive and that loan losses are driving up the cost of capital. But again, it's just like an oligopolistic mechanism in order to extract more per client on net interest margins as clients migrate away from the 5-year fixed rate product. So all of this is to say that if indeed this is the best time to buy a condo, okay? I'm not saying it. Ben is saying it. No. But if indeed this is the best time to buy a condo, it's probably also the best time to get a variable rate mortgage because, and not in so much that the prime rate's at 5.95. We think the prime rate is going lower. We know the prime rate's going lower, probably by 50 basis points in December. And we know it's going to continue to go lower. You heard it here last week first, but
yep.
I think it's going sub 4% for the prime rate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can lock into a 1.2% below prime variable rate mortgage, you can buy a condo for $1,000 a square foot, and that condo is going to go up 10, 20%. I believe your exact comment was the cheapest time ever in our lifetimes.
I honestly believe that. And I think it's having your cake and eating it too would be the best, most fitting.
What the fuck are you going to do with the cake if you can't eat it?
I think that if we can make the assumption that, rates are going to continue to decrease in the next year, which is a reasonable one to make, probably a point less or something in a year.
Way more than a point.
Or a point and a half less, something like that.
Minimum.
So you're buying, and I say with houses, it's a slam dunk. It's the cheapest time right now. I don't even think that's disputable. There's no freehold being added into urban communities other than the odd one, like the houses we built or whatever. You've got very few units being added. There's going to be tons of pressure on pricing on the freehold side. I mean, that's a slam dunk. The condo side of things, I would say, is a little less certain, but not much. I mean, there is not enough units to satisfy the amount of people that we need to house. So I think you're having your cake and eating it too if you're buying a condo at these rock bottom prices and then enjoying a variable interest rate that's a point and a half less in a year.
What about the fact that they don't carry?
I'm not talking about investors. I'm talking about end users.
Okay. So you believe that there's going to be so many end users coming into the market to buy these condos.
I do.
Here's the thing. If they don't carry, then it means that it's cheaper for the person to rent the condo than to buy the condo.
So that was the problem. And that's why the market collapsed condo wise, because it was just a spreadsheet decision. people would look at buying a condo and to put 20% down and to float it was costing $5,500, and then they realized the one down the hallway was for rent for $3,200. Right? So it becomes less of an attractive decision to go in that direction. As rates go down, that proposition becomes more favorable. And when it comes to when you get to the point where the spread is 500, 750, 1,000, and
so
then,
it's still negative.
but then a smart mortgage person like you tells them about the principal prepayment.
Well, I'm a mortgage person.
Not a smart
mortgage person.
But there's
would
smart
be
people on your
somebody
team.
else. Yeah. So on the team.
I know that you got your economics degree on eBay. I think you put a fake stamp on there. And everything.
Amazon delivered.
Yeah. But as that gap becomes narrower, the proposition becomes more attractive. And someone that's kind of a young professional, lawyer, banker, whatever, who's putting that on a spreadsheet. The other thing is that condos, that people see them through a shorter lens. Like it's not, you're not thinking about your kids and this is Timmy's bedroom. It's usually the window's shorter, right? And that's why that gap is more important for condos.
Okay.
That spread is everything. How much to rent the same thing.
So let's run it. So $1 million condo. Okay.
Okay.
1,000 square feet.
Okay.
Right. $1,000 a foot, 1,000 square feet. Super simple numbers so far.
Yeah. Where's my calculator?
So let's say
So we got $1 million.
That 1,000 square feet right now in the city of Toronto should rent for somewhere between $4 and $4.50 a foot.
Sure.
So rent, peg it, $4,500.
Yep.
Okay, now I want to buy it.
So
I can put 5% down. I can take a nut.
Okay, I'm usually thinking of 20% when someone buys, but
okay,
the numbers will be much worse if you do 5. But sure.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to keep things equal.
You're making your argument better if you do 5.
I mean, okay, so math is also going to be a lot easier. But fine, let's say you're going to put 20% down.
So you got what's $800,000 today borrowed on today's
$800,000
variable rate?
Well, yeah, all we'll do is the variable. So we'll say $595, and we're going to get a $470. $595 is the variable. 120 below that, 4.75%. 4.75% on $800,000 is $38,000 in annual interest. So that is
$3,000 and a bit a month, and then you've got so
$3,000 a month.
Yeah,
plus property taxes and maintenance fees.
So you're going to be more than the rent, but it's not going to be so much that it makes it an unattractive proposition.
So, like, is there a market, an inherent market calculation that, like, that'd be a really good thing to track? I got to ask my buddy Axelan.
The spread between the...
Well, just like everything else, there must be a historical spread between those two numbers.
It's very relevant data.
And I bet that spread increases in times of pervasive greed and decreases in times of fear, right? Like the greed fear index is probably alive and well in the spread between the cost to rent versus the cost to own. I'm sure that peak hysteria, people were willing to take a real hit on the cost to cash flow something in favor of the perspective of a huge capital gain.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're sitting in this point where the likelihood of that capital gain appears to be significantly diminished, which historically...
A non-primary residence, you're talking about money in the market?
I'm not talking about
best use of cash for somebody.
I'm just saying in peak hysteria for condos, there was an expectation that you were going to get a capital gain at the end of the rainbow. Right? Like within a year or two, that whatever that thing you bought was going to be worth more because Toronto condo prices were just skyrocketing up.
But even if even marginal increases that make sense to own because you're paying off your mortgage.
Well, right now, our argument right now, we're just saying interest. We're also in favor of trying to help you with your argument. We're omitting the fact that our borrower / prospective renter also took $200,000 that he could have had invested in like our MIC or in a GIC, earning him, if it was in a GIC, maybe it would earn him 3 or 4%. There's $8,000 that we could have applied against the $38,000 or sorry, the rental.
I think that's an argument that is very difficult to make. Even the most bullish market people, the Warren Buffetts of the world, say owning your primary residence is a slam dunk, and then what you do after that should be a decision that you make based on performance and such, right? We can agree on that.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to have security in where you live.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I know.
Like, don't get mad at me.
Hey, I'm mad. No, you want to have security in where you live. So what if you are somebody that doesn't end up with 4 kids and you want a house in 5 years? Maybe you just stay in your condo. Maybe you pay the thing off and you're 60 years old and you got a mortgage-free condo and you've taken your retirement package from the bank or law firm or whatever. No one can kick you out.
What if you don't pay your condo fees?
Okay. But at least you're not in a situation where landlord's going to come and say, I'm moving this unit, and you've got all your art on the walls and your baby grand piano or whatever you're into, and you're settled. It's your home. You don't want to get kicked out when you're going into your, it's a slam dunk to own your own home. And I think as long as there's marginal increases in price and you're paying off your mortgage, I think everyone should try or aspire to own their own home.
And your belief is that we've just hit such a low point in that fear of owning a condo, and such a low point in like how expensive it is to own that condo, that it's a great time to enter into the market to buy that condo.
Because just look at its basics. We saw prices come down as interest rates went up. Interest rates are now going down. I mean, I think it's kind of a slam dunk that we don't know how quickly that will happen, obviously, but
interest rates are coming down fast.
No, but I mean, it wasn't immediate on the uptick that the prices came down.
Do you know why?
Because people have, I guess they've got rate holds. Things have to shake through the economy.
There's a study that the Australian Central Bank did.
Okay.
That illustrates how long it takes for rate increases or decreases to affect the market. And it's like 30% of it is impacted in the first 12 months. And then it's like another 20, it's like kind of diminishing, but it's still a lot of torque. It's like 25% in the 12 to 24 month period. And then even in the 36, like 24 to 36 month post rate increase or cut, the effects of it are still being impacted in the market. So like right now, the average consumer is being impacted both by the previous rate increase and the most recent rate cut.
So what would that, is an Australian study relevant? Like, does it?
Yeah,
I guess it's comparable.
For sure.
Government
It's
and
monetary
economy.
policy. Yeah. Monetary policy.
Okay.
The impact of monetary policy on the average consumer, right?
Okay.
Just to say that, like, I mean, this blunt instrument that we've turned monetary policy into is probably not a great thing, but that's like another rant for another day. The Canadian consumer has felt a lot of pain. And like, here's the thing, like the only thing that I question about this idea that condo prices are going to go up.
Okay.
Forget about immigration for a second. Is we've done so much tinkering to monetary policy, right? Like we have slammed the brakes on our economy, right?
With rates just going too high too fast? Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
by tinkering?
Okay. Rates just going.
So you disagree with
forget
the speed of which, or
forget about me agreeing or disagreeing, right? All I want to get to is like what I think the impact is on condo prices in the GTA. Okay, we've done so much slamming on the brakes with our monetary policy, and we're behaving as though the only thing that is going to be impacted is going to be the market psychology. And the moment that we drop interest rates, everything's just going to spring back to life. But what did we break in the meantime, right? Like our unemployment's going to shoot up. Consumer confidence is going to be still impacted. We're going to have increased delinquencies. We're going to have more insolvencies. These things are hitting the market now. Mm-hmm. Unemployment is going up now. Insolvencies are higher than they've ever been now. Like the fractures and the issues in the economy are happening now. The consumer confidence erodes. So like this give and take, the Australian Central Bank report, this give and take between, yeah, for sure, we're using our blunt instrument of monetary policy again to lower interest rates, needs to be modeled over top of all the damage we already did by jacking up interest rates as fast as we did. And I just worry that it may take a little longer to revive this thing this economy that we play with like a kitten and a ball of yarn, right?
So, I mean, my comment that this is as cheap as it's going to get doesn't mean while you and I sit here on these beautiful couches. I'm talking about this period of time, right? We're, and if you're looking for something that's specific, you like this certain neighborhood and you want a terrace or whatever it is. I mean, you can't, it's not a stock. You can't just say, Google's as cheap as it's going to get. I'm going to buy Google. This is obviously something that you got to start the process and think about it. And are the prices their lowest today? Maybe it's 6 months away. Maybe it's 3 months away. It's a moot point. I mean, what's your next real estate move? And very few people buy right at the bottom.
Yeah, I know.
I mean
it's a fool's errand. That's a fool's errand. Right?
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to, whether or not you're talking about Amazon stock or a condo or a house or whatever. I mean, there's a very few amount of people that are going to buy at the absolute lowest price. You should be engaged in the process now. You should be calling these handsome, beautiful people at Cannect, getting not you, I mean people that work with you.
Yeah, I get it.
You should be engaged in it now, starting the process of figuring out what you want, because this is a period of opportunity. I think at the end of the day, that's what someone should take away from this conversation.
All right.
Have I, what do you think?
No, that was great. That was really great.
It's like it.
At this point, thanks for coming. Get the fuck out of here. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, this was really great having you. What was also really great, like best part of my day so far,
was when you got asked for the autograph
was when two teenage girls came up to me and asked if they recognized me from a TV show. And what just amazes me about it is like, I never realized that teenage girls were so interested in the economy and mortgages. But, homeowners are getting younger these days.
I'll tell you, I listen to what happens in my basement. Teenagers down there trying to solve the world's problems. My son and his girlfriend and friends, and they're so much more engaged in politics, in the economy.
Wow.
I don't think I was considering, much of that. They're down there solving the world's problems. Ideological teenagers, of course, it's simpler in their eyes. But I think we have to listen to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've had enough listening to you.
I think that's a great way to finish this.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I love seeing you. You're one of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
Me
too.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Listen, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for listening. This was a long one today, but it was a lot of fun. Join us next week for another exciting episode of Make Money Count.